When your house is sold at sheriff's sale, how do you go about getting the surplus funds? And what exactly is surplus funds anyway? Well, watch till the end of the video and I'll tell you how you can recover surplus funds. This is Lenny the Lawyer Live, and before we get started with the video, I want you to know that this video is for education and informational purposes only. There is no legal advice being given. If you want legal advice, we'll tell you how to get it at the end of this video. Now, let's get started. Surplus funds occur when you're unable to pay your mortgage and your mortgage lender gets a judgment of foreclosure and sends that over with a writ to the sheriff to have a foreclosure sale on your home. And when that foreclosure sale generates funds that exceed the amount you owe on the mortgage, that's called surplus funds. But that amount is not necessarily what you can expect to get. In order to get surplus funds, you can't write to the sheriff's office, you can't write to the court. They're going to ignore you, or they may send a polite letter telling you to get an attorney. Now, the reason you have to obtain an attorney is that a part of the court system in New Jersey known as the Office of Foreclosure is holding those surplus funds. And they have a very strict, highly technical procedure that even a lot of lawyers don't know how to handle. However, I have handled a lot of these cases successfully. But let me tell you a story first about a couple that was in their late 30s, early 40s that came to me. They came into my office and they had two children who sat in the waiting room. The husband and wife sat down, and as the husband told me what happened, his wife started to cry, so I gave her a box of Kleenex. What the husband told me was that he had lost his job as a result of Doge, and he didn't know how long it would take to get unemployment, but he knew that his unemployment would not make up for the mortgage payment or the other payments. So as a result of that, he said the house was sold at sheriff's sale. He explained to me that he talked to family and friends and no one could help him out. But if they could help him out, they weren't telling him. So he lost his house, and his children and his wife were extremely upset, and he was upset and embarrassed. I said, don't be embarrassed. You've been a victim of circumstances that are far beyond your control, and probably thousands of people, maybe even more than that, maybe hundreds of thousands of people across the country are in a similar position. I wish I could tell you you could get your job back and that I could do that for you, but I can't. However, from what you're telling me, since the house sold for about $200,000 more than what you owed on the mortgage, there may be surplus funds that I can recover for you. His wife finally stopped crying and put her tissues down and looked at me. And I told her, there's a very strict and highly technical legal procedure to recover surplus funds that not a lot of attorneys know how to do. However, among other areas of practice, I'm a mortgage foreclosure defense attorney, and I have handled a significant number of surplus funds cases successfully. So I can help you out. But the first step we have to determine is, out of that $200,000, how much you're really going to be entitled to. I explained to them that their creditors would have to be notified of this, and they would have to be paid if they filed a claim that they were owed money. The proceedings that are required by the Office of Foreclosure, which is where the money goes to, are very complex and technical. Before they came to see me, the husband tried writing a letter to the court, and then he wrote a letter to the sheriff, and he asked both of them for the money, and they basically ignored him. I explained to him the reason they ignored you is they can't do anything about it. That money is held by the Office of Foreclosure. I asked him, how much debt did you have besides the mortgage? And he said, maybe $3,000 or $4,000 in credit card debt, plus I have an automobile loan, and I can't get unemployment yet, and I know unemployment won't be enough to cover the mortgage. And one of our children was born prematurely and is a special needs child, so my wife is a full-time stay-at-home mother and she's unable to work. I said, I understand, and I'm sorry that that happened, but at least your children are alive and well, and special needs can be handled and the child can still have a meaningful life. But I told them, here's what I can do to help you. I can follow the procedures that are required by the New Jersey Office of Mortgage Foreclosure. And these procedures are highly complex and technical. I'm not going to explain those to you in this video because I can guarantee you one thing for certain. If I tried to, you'd be put to sleep. I told him the procedure would take about 6 months, start to finish. But every step had to be followed precisely. And I said, you did the right thing by coming to a lawyer. A lot of people aren't as smart as you. They go to somebody who has watched a load of YouTube videos about surplus funds and told them how they can recover the surplus funds for them, or they've gone to a company that claims to be able to get surplus funds. And both of those things are false. They're engaging technically in the unauthorized practice of law. Surplus funds is a legal proceeding. The Office of Foreclosure is part of the New Jersey court system, and that's where the money's held. So that's why the court and the sheriff couldn't give you any money. He said, well, as an attorney, can you write a letter to the Office of Foreclosure to get my money? I said, no, they won't respond to that. However, this is more complicated than that. There are very strict procedural rules that have to be followed. And I asked him, I said, how much do you owe in credit card or other debt? And he said, just a couple of $1,000s on credit cards, and I'm still current on my auto loan. And I said, that's good. I said, I'm going to be able to get the surplus funds for you. I know the exact legal proceedings we have to follow. And with that, he and his wife seemed to calm down. I said, once we determine how much of the $200,000 you're entitled to, I will start the proceedings for you. And you do not have to pay me anything out of pocket. The amount of compensation I can get is fixed by law. And I will explain that to you, and it will be written in the retainer that I'll give you to sign. The couple put their faith and trust in me, and they felt relaxed. In fact, after a period of 6 months, like I told them, since I followed the exact procedures and notified all the creditors, we got a check sent to my office from the Office of Foreclosure of the state of New Jersey. Now, had they gone to somebody that was not a trained attorney familiar with how the Office of Foreclosure works, because it's a power unto itself and it really doesn't answer to anybody. You have to follow strict procedural guidelines, and it would take about an hour to explain those guidelines to you. And I guarantee you, the only thing that would happen if I tried to do that is I would put you to sleep for certain. And my goal is to educate you and provide legal information, not put you to sleep. To obtain surplus funds, you have to call the office of Boyer Coffee LLC at 973-798-6131. We have offices in Clifton, New Jersey and Maplewood, New Jersey, and we can help you no matter what county in New Jersey you're in. Now, when you call us, our compensation is fixed by statute. And I'll explain that when we meet in person. However, you do not have to put any money up front out of pocket. If I don't recover surplus funds for you, I do not get paid. Now, when you call Boyer Coffee LLC at 973-798-6131, we can either in person at one of our offices or by secured video conference. Then and only then can we give you legal advice and explain how we will get the surplus funds for you. However, on social media or on YouTube or even through AI, you cannot get legal advice. This video is not legal advice. It's educational in nature and informative. In order to get your surplus funds, you need to call the offices of Boyer Coffee LLC at 973-798-6131. We will be able to see what the surplus funds are that are actually available to you and determine that, and then we will get started with the process, which takes approximately 6 months, but it could take longer, depending upon how busy the Office of Foreclosure is. Now, once again, the only way to do this is through a mortgage foreclosure defense attorney who has significant experience with obtaining surplus funds from the Office of Foreclosure. As I said earlier, I have done this successfully several times, and I know what's required. So I'm asking you to put your faith and trust in me, and I will do my very best to make sure you're not disappointed. I can't guarantee the amount you'll get, but I can guarantee aggressive, effective professional representation. And remember, if there's no recovery, I don't get paid. So right now, if you've lost your house due to a sheriff's sale after a foreclosure, pick up the phone today and call 973-798-6131, and we will get the process started for you. I'm Leonard Boyer of Boyer Coffee LLC, and I can't find you, but I've told you how to find me. So the ball is in your court. You don't have to let the banks hold your money. You can use that money to get a new start on life and eventually get another home. But the economy is a very complex and separate situation which we cannot discuss in this video. I thank you for spending your time with me today because I know how valuable it is, and unlike money, it's not replaceable. So I greatly appreciate it. And if you're watching this video on YouTube and you have questions or comments, please click on the subscribe button and make sure that it's checked so you get notified of all future videos that I make, and click on the bell icon. And be sure to leave comments in the comment section if you have any questions or concerns. Or to get your questions and concerns answered quicker, call Boyer Coffee LLC at 973-798-6131 today and we can get this started for you. And if you want further information on surplus funds, there's another surplus funds video on my channel, Lenny the Lawyer Live. Thank you for watching, and now pick up the phone and take action so I can recover surplus funds for you.